Hi guys, this is Hakim and welcome to my channel. So in our previous video we tried to create this Android calculator right here with JavaScript and framework7. So we did the UI part in the previous video. In this video we are going to create the logic for the calculator to actually work. So if you've not actually watched the first part, I will highly recommend you to do that so that we're able to follow along. So in the last part we actually forgot to add something to our calculator, which was the padding and this font size for the operators is quite large. So the first thing we are going to do, we are going to add a padding to these numbers and operators, then we reduce the font size. So let's do that right now. So in the index.html we will add padding to the number column. So we add a top padding dash top, give 20 pixels. I'll do the same to the operators column. And the next we are going to do, we are going to reduce the font size of the operator. So we'll make it 20 pixels. Let's reload. Okay, right now the UI is okay. So the next thing we are going to do right now, we are going to add an ID to this to span tag right here. We are going to give it an ID. So the first ID we are going to give is for the first span tag, which is the input. So we are going to give it an ID of input, and the second span tag we are going to give it an ID of answer for the answer. So that will be all for the index.html file. So let's head over to the index.js. So that we'll start writing the logic. So the first thing we are going to do, we are going to create a function and call it button pressed. So this function is the function that is going to run once a user click on any of the numbers or the operators. So the button is going to take one argument, which is going to be the input, and we are going to add the button to this span tag right here. So we'll add on click event, then we'll add the function, then we add the input. Sorry, it should be this, not the row, this column right here, that is this. Then we add the input, and we'll do the same for the operators. Right here is going to be operators. So the next thing we are going to do, we are going to add another function, create another function called display input. Display input. So this function is going to take one argument or parameters, anything you call it. We're going to take one, which is going to be the input. So we are going to call the function in this button pressed, then we'll pass in the input. Then inside this display input, we are going to try to display the input. So once the user click on this any of the number of operators, it's going to run this function. It's going to run this function, that is this button press, which is going to call this display input. So we are going to get the input. So we grab the input, let's give it a name of current input. We'll get it from the that is the span tag in the index dot HTML. If you could remember, we gave it an ID of input, this right here. So the next we are going to do we are going to take this input right here, that is the one we just grabbed. We are going to take this user input right here, and we are going to add it to the input right here. So we are going to display it right here. So to display it, we'll say input dot inner text plus equals to input. So we are taking the input and we are adding it to this input. So we are just concatenating it. So if there is a value, it's going to add to that value. If, let me say, is for example, if there is 24 and this input is 5, it's going to be 245. So we are just concatenating it to it. So let's open our app and see if the input actually works, if it's going to display. Okay, so right now we are actually seeing the input, so it's displaying right here. So the next thing we are going to do, we are going to we don't want a situation where this 0 is going to come before any value, any number. So like once a user click on this on 9, it's supposed to replace this, supposed to delete the 0, then to display the 9. So we don't want a 0 before any value or any number. So let's try and do that right now. So we are going to add an if statement right here. So we'll say if current input dot inner text is equals to 0 and current input dot inner text dot length is equals to 1, then we are going to clear it. Dot inner text is equals to empty string. So what we are actually doing right now, we are checking if there is a current input that is 0 and the current length, that is the length of the total input, is equals to 1. So we want to make sure that it's only 0, there is no any other value. So we are going to clear it. Then it's going to run this line right here, which is going to add the new input user type, the user pressed click on. So let's try it and see if it's going to work. So right now it's actually working fine. So the next thing we are going to do, we don't want this del to show up. So let's try and fix that right now. So in button press, we are going to add some conditions. So we are going to check, let's just add it right here first. I'm going to check if input is equals to del, that is for the delete. We are going to do nothing right now, or else we are going to display the input, that is this input. We are going to run this function to display the input. So actually right now I did the del should not display. So let's check if it works. So the del is no more showing up in this input. So the next thing we are going to do right now, we are going to add a delete function so that we'll be able to delete. So once a user click on this del, it's going to delete the input. That is just one. It's going to remove one number from the input, one value from the input. So let's add a function below this press function. We'll say function delete input, and we are going to call the function right here. So once the once the user click on button press and the input is going to del, this is going to run this function, this delete input function. So let's work on the delete inputs function. So right now what you are going to do, we are going to get the input. So we say current input goes to document dot get element by id inputs. And right now let's add a variable and we'll call it new input, inputs, which is going to be current input. That is a current input dot inner text dot split. So we are trying to make the string turn the string to an array, so we are going to split it. That's what you are doing right here. So right now this new input is an array. So the next thing we are going to do, we are going to remove the last value, that is the last number. So we do that by saying new input dot pop. So it's going to remove the last value, the last number or value in this input, in this new input right here. So we are going to set the new input right now. We will say new input is equals to new input dot join. So we'll make it, so we'll join it back, so it's going to turn it to string. So right now what we actually did right now, we split the input, create a variable called new inputs, and we got the input from here. Then we split it, we turn it to an array, then we pop it. This pop is going to remove the last item from the array. Then we now set the new input is equals to new input dot join. Then we now join it back. That means we join the input and we turn the input back to the string. So the next we are going to do, we say current input dot inner text is equals to new input, new input. So let's see if it's going to work. So let's delete. So right now everything is working fine, but we don't want it to delete everything. So we want it to after it deletes, if we delete everything, so there will be a 0. So let's try and do that right now. So we are going to check right here if new input is equals to empty. So we set the new input to 0 is equals to 0. So right now if the input is empty, we are going to set it to 0. So with this line, we will not have an empty, there will not be empty input right here. So let's check that. So let's delete, it's going to turn to 0. So the next thing we are going to do, as you can see, these operators, right, we are having multiple operators, like this multiple operators. We don't want that to happen. So we want like a situation once a user click on this multiplication sign, then if the user click on addition sign again, it's going to replace it to an addition sign. So that's what we are going to do right now. Let's do that right now. In this our display inputs. So in this our display input, we are going to check if the current, that is the input, the current not the current input, like the input the user pressed, is equals to any of the operators. So if it's go to addition, or let me just copy this, paste, goes to or okay, so we have to get this division sign right here from here. So we are going to check if it's any of the operators, that is the any of the operators. The user click on any of the operators. The user click on any of the operators, or else you are going to just run this here. Then if the user click on any of the operators, we are going to check if the last this current input, if the last value there is an operator. If it's an operator, we are going to replace it with this new operator that the user click on. So we are going to do that right now. So to do that, we'll say current, will add an if statement, and we'll say current input dot text dot split. We are going to split it again. So we are going to make it an array, then we are going to pop it. So it's going to give us the last value there in the input. So if it goes to let me say if it goes to addition sign, or it goes to multiplication sign, we are going to check for the 4 operators. Let's add to this. Also, let's add the last one. So this one is going to be for multiplication, and this one is going to be for this division right here. So if it's any of these sign, we are going to remove the last value, and we are going to replace it with this new input. So actually it's almost the same thing with this. So let's just copy this. So let's copy it and let's paste it right here. So we are going to say new input is equals to current input dot, we are going to split it, then we pop it, then that is we are going to remove the last input, then we are going to join it back, and we are going to concatenate it with this new input, that is the new operators that the user have typed. So we are going to add it to the span tag right now. It's equals to new input. So let's check our app and see if it's going to work. 3 and multiply. So okay, our operators are no more coming up. Let's check. Why is it okay? So right now this condition is false because there is no input. So we need to add another condition right here. So we add another condition right here. So this condition is false already because there was no the current input does not contain any of these operators. So the next we are going to do, we are going to add an else statement, so that we're going to add the input like the way we did here. So let's copy this and just add it right now. So let's see if it's going to work. So okay, so right now the operators are replacing their self. So okay, it's actually working. So the next thing I would like us to fix this 0 right now. We don't want an operator after 0. So if it's 0, this operator should not show up, should not display. So let's try and fix that right now. So to fix that, inside this else we add an else if. So it's going to check if the current input dot inner text is not equals to 0 before it's going to run this line. So if it goes to 0, this is going to return false, so it's not going to display the input. But if it's not equals to 0, it's going to add the input to the span tag. So let's try that and see if it's going to work. Okay, so 0. So right now operators are not coming up again because this is actually 0. So if we add a number, click on a number, and operators are coming up right now. So everything is working fine. So the next we are going to do, we are going to work on the equal function, so that we'll be able to calculate the values. So let's try that right now. So we are going to add a function below the display inputs, and we are going to call the function calculate. So function calculate. So this calculate function is going to take an argument, has an argument, or it's going to take a parameter called input, like the way the other functions did. So first thing we are going to do, we are going to get the input. So we'll say okay, this function does not actually need any argument. So we'll say current input is equals to comment dot get my id is equals to input. And next thing we are going to do, we are going to grab the answer span tag. So answer, so I'm going to grab it, id, we gave it an id of answer, I think. Let's check. So okay, it's actually correct. So let's add this function to the equal sign. So we'll check if it's an equal sign. If input is equals to, then we are going to run this calculate function. So we are going to use a function in JavaScript called eval. So what this function does is that it takes a string that has mathematical operators like plus, minus sign, mathematical sign, and it's going to take the numbers and it's going to evaluate it, or it's going to multiply, add it, multiply it, and divide it. So it's going to give you the answer. So let's do that right now. So this are our answer right here. We are going to set it to answer dot inner text. It's going to be what these functions give us. So this function is actually going to take the current input right now. So let's see, let's try our app and see. So 9 plus 9, whoa, okay, should be inner text. So we are going to get the numbers from these current inputs, and we are going to pass it to this function right here, which is going to evaluate it and going to give us the answer. So let's see if it's going to work right now. So 9 plus 9 is equals to 18. we can delete 8 multiplied by 8. We are actually going to get an error because this multiplication sign is actually is not a mathematical sign, and this division sign is not a mathematical sign. So we have to check and see if this multiplication sign or this division sign. So we are going to replace it to the actual sign. So let's do that right now. So what we are going to do, we are going to add a variable called eval input, which is going to be an empty string, and we are going to add a for loop. So we are going to loop through this text right here, this current input. So we'll say I equals to 0, current I is less than current input dot length I plus plus plus. So what we are going to check if the current input, that is the position, is equals to this multiplication sign. So we are going to we are going to concatenate this variable with the actual sign we need. So we'll say eval input, that is for evaluate input, plus equals to the sign we actually need, which is star, and we are going to check for this division again. Let's copy this. We are going to check for division sign. Let me look for the division sign. Okay, I'm kind of confused right now. Okay, so we are going to add division sign, this sign right here, else we just concatenate this stuff with the current input. So it's going to be so it's going to be this current input. So what you are actually doing right here is, in this for loop, you are going to check if it's this times, that is this times this multiplications x, this x sign. So if it's this x, you are going to concatenate the eval input, this variable right here. So we are going to add it to this. So we are going to add the main sign we need, and we are going to do the same thing here. And also, if it's none of this, we are just going to take the current input and concatenate it, like add it to it. So it's going to form, so just like we are taking this string right here, we are looping it, then we are just cloning it, but we are making some changes inside this variable. So that's what we are actually doing. So instead of this current input, we are going to pass in this variable right here. So let's open our app and see. So let's check it out and see if it's going to work. So right now it's actually working, and also the division sign is working fine. Yeah. So next thing right now, like okay, if this 9 and we have a division sign, so if we click on equal sign, that is going to give us an error because of this this division right now. So this function is going to give us an error because we are not to have the operators after or before. So it's going to be like number, then the operators, then the number. So we don't need to have operator after a number. So if you have the same thing like 9 plus and there is no any number after the addition sign, so if we click on this equals button, it's going to give us an error. So we are going to fix that right now. So what you are going to do right now, we are going to add a variable called last char, that is for last character. So it's going to be an empty string, which is going to be current input dot now text dot split. So we are going to split it and we are going to pop it. So we want to get the last character right here. So we are going to check if the last character is an operator. If it's an operator, we will not run this line right here, but if it's not an operator, we are going to run it. So that's what we are going to do right now. So we'll say if it's not equals to any of these stuffs, any of these operators, then we are actually going to run this function right here. So we have to duplicate this. Let's copy it. So let's start changing those. Don't know why. Okay, we'll figure that right later. So let's add this. Okay, I've seen it. So what you are going to do right now, let's change the operators. Let me make this addition, then okay, subtraction. So if it's not equals to any of these operators, we are going to run this. So right now we should not get that error again. So let's check it out. So we'll say 9 plus, and let's hit it. Okay, property split undefined. Okay, okay, no need of inner text anymore. We'll just split it right here. It's going to work. So let's see. Unexpected input, line 40. So what you are going to do, actually I made a mistake. It should be and not or. So it's going to check if the last character is any of these, it's not equals to any of these. So we are going to run this function. So let's try it and see. Okay, so right now we are not getting any of those errors anymore. So there is something again. So like right now we would like to this equals sign, like okay, this 81, so it should delete anytime the user click on this delete, it should recalculate it and show the current answer. So let's do that right now. So we are going to add this calculate function. We are going to add it to the delete function below here. Then anytime user click on delete, it also calculates it. So Let's see if it's going to work. Okay, and also we want once it hits 0, this answer should clear the answer. There should be no any value right here. So let's do that right now. So we are going to add an if statement right here in the calculate function right here. So we are going to check. So we are going to check if the input is equals to 0. So we are going to clear the answer. So let's check and see if it's going to work. So actually let's remove this from the index.html, this default 0. So let's remove it. So right now if you hit 0, it's going to clear the input, but as you can see, once we clear once we clear the operators, it's going to automatically display this input right here. We don't want that to happen, so we want it to check if there is no any input. If there's no any operator, it should not display the input. So let's try and see. Let's try and work it out. So we are going to add a variable right here, and we are going to call it operator. Say let operator and we set it to false. So inside this for loop, we are going to check. So let's just copy this first and I'll explain it. So we are going to check for the operator. So actually we are going to check for the operators. So we'll check for all the operators. If there is an operator, okay, let me get that sign, that division sign, and the last one is going to be addition. So if there is an operator, we are going to set this operator value right here to true. Operator is equals to true. Set it to true. So right here we are going to run this. We are going to run a test on this line. So if this input, this variable right here is equals to 0 and operator is equals to true, that means there is an operator. So we are going to clear the answer, and also we are going to check right here. So if there is an operator, that is if the operator is equals to true. So this if statement right here is going to check if there is an operator in the input. It's going to set this operator variable to true. So right here, before we run this function, we are going to check if there is an operator, then we run the function. If there is no operator, we won't run the function. And here we are going to check if the operator is false, that is there is no operator, so we are going to clear it. This should actually be or, not and. So let's check. Let's open our app and see. I think this is the final function. There is no any other function. So let's see. 3. and we can delete. Okay, let's add it so we can delete. So right now everything is working fine. Let's check everything and make sure it's working fine. So we can add multiple operators, so it's going to overwrite the operator. Then let's divide it and see, and also we can delete it, and also we are having no errors, no issue, everything is okay right now. So that'll be all for the Android calculator. I might do a tutorials about PhoneGap and Cordova, so that we'll be able to install the calculator in our mobile device. So if you like this kind of video, please subscribe to my channel and also drop a comment. Let me know if I should do the PhoneGap or Cordova tutorials, and I'll see you in the next video. Thank you.